it's a mad grind. For the first 15-20 years of my life, I didn't know anything apart from the Tanpura, and I didn't even count the hours that I practiced. I would fall asleep, again somebody will wake me up, again sit back, again start singing. I would call my mother and say, हाथ में दर्द हो रहा है तानपुरा बजाने से, my fingers are hurting. बाथरूम में बैठ के भी रियाज किया है. But there was one side which was the dry side. उसमें तानपुरा लेके बैठ के घंटों रियाज की. Tell me, you give me a date, you give me the best auditorium in the world, you give me the best audience in the world, and you ask me that you have to guarantee that this has to be the best performance. Can I guarantee that? So what am I taking ownership of? If I can't guarantee my best performance, given everything best, which means it's something beyond me, मेरे कंट्रोल में है ही नहीं, तो फिर जब सब वाह वाह कर रहे हैं वो मेरे लिए क्यों मैं सोच लूँ कि मेरे लिए है सब कुछ. This is a reality show. So what we all have to understand that it's predominantly a show.
It's entertainment.
Yeah. It's not, bringing you the reality of a process of, a singer evolving, a student of music evolving. That happens behind the closed doors. I never got to be a stupid, useless child who says 5 things which are insignificant but sometimes awkward and puts parents into a place where it's like, "Arey, bachche ne aisa keh diya." I've never been that child. I have never been that performer who was allowed to make mistakes. I can never be that mother who can be stupid at times. And of course, the performer's responsibility is of a very different level. When I go to mountains, when I post a picture, people ask that, what rag did you think about? I said, I didn't sing for 5 days. I didn't want to sing. So in a way, I'm also saying that I missed my riyaz for 5 days or 6 days or maybe 10 days. And maybe in a way, I'm also saying it's okay.
And that you're human.
And I'm a human. I'm a singer, but I'm not only a singer and nothing else. I'm a piece of life first.
Yeah.
You go on any of these platforms, Kaushiki Chakravarti will be defined by tans and more hitting the third octave. But is that all that I am? But we were sitting by the pool chatting, doing our rubbish, some people cycling and all. So 2 people came and they wanted a selfie with me. 2 of my friends, 50 rupees each. Ab yahan pe कर कटावरी ठेवुनिया सुंदर ते ध्यान उभे विटेवरी सुंदर ते ध्यान. Rarely I'm in a space where I'm being allowed to be so much myself and truly share who I am. So thank you for giving me that space. Thank you for bringing this conversation to a space where I really enjoyed talking to you.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Level Up podcast. You guys are in for a treat today because our guest is Srimati Kaushiki Chakravarti. She's an Indian classical vocalist and is the daughter of Pandit Ajay Chakravarti. Her repertoire covers pure classical, khayals, dadra, thumri, bhajan and several other forms of Indian classical music. She's the recipient of many awards. She's featured on Coke Studio. She has countless albums to her name and has also sung for a lot of Bollywood films. In our conversation today, we spoke about the makings of a maestro, about parenting, the flip side of fame, about the reality of reality shows, the invaluable contribution of courtesans in our music, about spirituality and a lot more. Make sure you watch till the end because you'll see a new side to Kaushiki ji in this one. To give some background, I have been a student of Hindustani classical music for over 10-11 years now. But the guest who's here with me has been a reminder that I've only seen the drop of the ocean and there's so much more to learn in life. But at the same time, I'm so excited because today I have the opportunity to learn from you. So I'm so happy, Kaushiki ji, that you're on the podcast. How are you doing? And is this your first podcast experience?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Karan, for having me here. It is the first official podcast for me, so I'm really excited. I've been an audience of many podcasts and I've really enjoyed the space, the conversation, the really getting to know the person kind of space that a podcast can very authentically and beautifully give. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation, and I'm very happy. I didn't know that you have been learning Hindustani classical music for such a long time. So I'm really looking forward to the conversation because I think it's really getting to be very interesting.
Absolutely. And because I'm a student of music, for me, it's an even more special occasion that I get to interact with you. Kaushiki ji, you've had the privilege and honor of being the daughter of Pandit Ajay Chakravarti ji. That's an experience in itself. And tell us how it was to be raised by someone like that, to be trained by someone like that, and what is the relationship like, because you're also balancing the father daughter relationship, but you're also balancing the guru shishya relationship.
So it's been a very interesting journey so far, because I think we are still in the process of balancing it, and it's like an ongoing journey. Like every relationship, you work on that and you rediscover that in every phase of your life. I think because we have two very important but parallel relationships, I think we are also rediscovering many layers of both of those relationships with changing times and phases of our lives and roles that we are playing in life. So, yeah, to start with, Baba will always be my superhero, always. And that is first musically. So, this is where, balance always works differently for different people. Maybe for some, the father daughter or the father son relationship is the predominant relationship. But for us, I think from the very beginning, my equation with Baba was uh, first of a guru and a shishya, and then of course the father daughter equation is always there. So I have always seen myself being awed by his music, his presence, his thought process, his brilliance, his hard work, his resilience. He came from a very humble background. My grandparents were refugees, came from Bangladesh. So it wasn't that, that rosy kind of a family that, they had a very rosy life in Bangladesh back there. But then under the circumstances that they had to move to this part of Bengal, then, at that time, and not under the, things were not in control. So they just had to move. And then, of course, Baba was born, and his childhood was very difficult. And so I was born when Baba was 28. So he was not like a very mature person. He was still struggling. He was still trying to kind of make sense of coming from a family where there's no legacy, there's nobody to kind of hold his hand and, walk the paths with him. Had no idea. Bengal has never been the hub of Indian classical music, and Bengalis have never been, not never been, but there are not too many names like it is in Maharashtra, like it is from Delhi or Banaras or Lucknow. Bengal has never had that many people coming out of Bengal on a national platform and, establishing their identity as Indian classical musicians. So all that was um, like a restrictive kind of a thought, but knowing Baba, it was his challenge. So he took it up as a challenge. His struggles were so real and intense, and his responsibilities for his family and everything was so overwhelming and overpowering that I think in the beginning of my childhood, spending time with the daughter just as a doting father was a luxury for both of us. He had to establish the family, he has to establish himself. He didn't have a support system to do that. And he had chosen a life which is an offbeat kind of a life. So he was also offered a job at the Reserve Bank of India. And my granddad said that, you go to any public place and find a bank employee, no offense to bank employees, but you find a bank employee and see how many of them, and you try and find an artist. So I don't want my son to go that path where I see 50 other people doing that same thing. I want you to be unique and exclusive, and I trust you that you can do that. So that vision he had. And Baba also kind of, he tried to make the most of it with his own zeal and his he has an undying passion and, the ability to work hard and focus and concentrate and do something. So in the beginning, that is what was so, overwhelming for me to see in my superhero.
I can imagine.
So before he became just a father, I think he became that super presence in my life who I was like totally in awe of. So that happened, and then of course music. So from the very beginning of my life, I practiced because I wanted Baba's validation. I sang, I wanted to sing better, I wanted to practice better, because I would think my superhero will be happy. Because his happiness mattered the most. One nod would make my week and month. That okay. I mean, nothing more than that I've ever gotten till date. So, but that one nod is good enough for me to, try and make it better. So after a lot of time, I think that father-daughter equation started, surfacing, rather resurfacing, when Baba was also more secure in his space. And I also grew up a little, and that struggle of always, seeking for his attention by doing music better, that kind of came to a place where he also knew that this has already become my purpose, and we are walking the path together. Then we started feeling like co-travelers, and now I think we are at a point um, where he understands me the best, musically and otherwise, because I'm just living his life. I'm just doing what he did in his own time, with lot more difficulties, with lot more challenges. But I also have my own challenges which he sees, because there's a gender difference, and that defines a lot of roles, and that shifts a lot of perspectives, and he sees that. I think one sees that best when it's with your daughter. So I think now it's far more balanced, and it's evolving in a direction which is far more the equilibrium is much more than how it started off. But I think it's been the most incredible journey to know him, to understand him, and to somewhat to see life from where he sees it. And it's incredible. Now I think, now when I look back, I I see what the father had to do to first choose to become the guru. It's not an easy choice.
That's such a beautiful line because exactly, the journey that Pandit Ajay Chakravarti ji's had is incredible. And, especially his father also to say that I want my son to be an artist at a
Yeah.
time when you're not financially well
No,
settled.
not at all.
We see financially well settled kids also not getting the support
Yeah,
today.
yeah.
And to have that
To
mindset,
follow their passion, to do what they want to do.
so you
You
come
know,
from incredible lineage, Kaushik
it
ji.
is. I really I'm so proud when I look around. Even today's day and age, we always want. There are so many professions which are so celebrated, which are so secure, which are so established. Still, if you ask a parent that what would you want your child to do, they will take those stereotypes. Take a job, do something. Go in an established kind of an ecosystem, be a part of a machinery, rather than defining the machinery yourself. It's such an incredible family to be a part of, and I think we only realize that once you come to a point and a phase in your life where you see around, and then you understand not all choices were so easy and simple. From a refugee to a celebrity in one lifetime is a fairy tale. It's a fairy tale, because I remember, these are anecdotes which might just help people to understand. So in Kolkata we have this Kala Pila taxi na. We used to have Kala Pila, abhi to sab Pila hai, and baki to Uber hai. So but I remember only concert days, Baba's concert days were our taxi days. So after a concert, Ravindra Sadan mein concert hoga, and then we would come out of the auditorium. Ma and me would either take the security guard's chair and sit, or in the footpath, because it's late at night and Baba has to grab hold of a taxi. And till the time he grabs hold of a taxi, someone has to carry the harmonium in the tanpura, and he will not keep it on the ground. So we will sit on the footpath. मेरे गोद में तानपुरा, I'll hold it like that with a cloth cover, and माँ के गोद में harmonium. So we will sit with that till he finds a taxi, and then we'll have a taxi और उसमें तानपुरा harmonium pack करके we will come home. And this is not like this. I have a conscious memory of that. So this is not like 50 years, 60 years, 70 years. Once upon a time there was. It's not like that. It's something that I remember. Our first car, a second-hand Ambassador, was bought when my brother was born. He's 11 years younger than me. And that gadi was also a khatara, because it's very bad. But that's what I remember. Everything else, every other day was a tram or a bus or some other conveyance. Matlab, taxi was not something that I remember growing up, having it every day for anything. Forget car.
Such a beautiful anecdote and a story, because these are incidents that really build character, Kaushik ji. Because at that point also, when you're taught that you cannot disrespect the instruments, this is your God, this is when, you're learning when someone's not directly telling you also, but you're learning through his actions. It's such a character building activity. But Kaushik ji, as time evolves, we all change. And at the same time, we take a lot from our parents, but we also become our own people. And now that you're raising your son and also training him in music, is there something that you're doing differently?
Very differently. Very differently. I think we it's true that we also change, but it's also true that I think it's one of the psychological theories that you live your childhood throughout your life. So some things that you have learned, you have seen, you have experienced, you have not experienced, it always defines a lot of choices that you make later in life. So I think between me and my son, we are first friends. That is very different from how I was raised. That can be a time also, like the change in time. But we are first friends, then we are mother and son, and then we are, you know, whatever you call it. Guru is a very big word for me. But yeah, I mean, we walk the path together and we love the same thing.
Right. No, it's important because it's also important for you at the end of it to feel like I did it my way.
And I think it's also a mother instinct, not every it we are just different, a father, how a father reacts to a situation, how a mother reacts to a situation, how a mother sees a child, how a father sees a child. It's very different. So for me, it was never, it still is, and it'll never be so important that how much of the musical legacy that I pass on. I would rather want him to be a very secure person, even if he has a very simple life. So I think that simplicity should translate into confidence, and that should translate into defining success.
But at the same time, is there a fear that if my son at certain point in time doesn't follow through with music, who's going to take forward the legacy?
No. I think in today's day and age, this concept of the next generation taking the legacy forward comes from a time where recordings, documentation was not possible. It was all an oral tradition. So somebody had to talk about you for you to become immortal. So we all want immortal. We all want to live beyond our lives, and that's why legacy is such a overrated term, because there are so many legacies. It's not only belief system, principles, ideologies. These are legacies that you don't follow necessarily of your family always. There are so many other political legacies, political ideologies, art, of course, nature, life. Everything is a legacy. So that doesn't depend on your child doing it, because it's a thought process. It finds its way. It finds its expression through someone or the other. So it's not necessary, and let's not burden our next generations with this necessity to carry the legacy that I define. Maybe they carry some other legacy which I am not defining. So in my legacy, which will be carried forward by my son, there is my need in it. But I think as a parent, we should see what's his need. What he wants to live, what is the legacy that he chooses. If he chooses mine, fantastic. If he doesn't, then I should be there supporting him, finding his legacy and finding the path that he wants to follow, so that he blossoms into the maximum potential that he can find himself in, or he can find the best expression of who he is.
This is so important, and thank you for giving this message, because especially coming from you, I think it means a lot. And why burden people when they are alive for something that will happen after they're dead?
And things will happen. Music is such a time tested tradition. It's been living the way it is for thousands of years without anybody ever being able to define what its journey is going to be. It has changed, it has broken, remade itself, redefined itself. But it's still somewhere the ethos of it is so alive and so throbbing with life, that it will find its place. Till the time human beings will continue to feel, they will need art to express how they feel.
100%.
So it'll find its way. He is here because something which is beyond him and me chose him to have this life. And that didn't come with a bucket list. He was not born with a bucket list and of boxes that he has to tick. So I am just another human being whose bucket list is again not defined. Somehow it turned out to be this, whatever it is. So I think it's better if he has company in me and my husband to find out what his bucket list can be. I mean, it's amazing if he if he likes to do music.
Yeah.
Because that will be the only benefit, is that's something that's a path that we both
Right.
know
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah.
कि इसमें या होता है, ये होता है, वहाँ पे हर्डल्स आते हैं, वहाँ पे थोड़ा स्पीड ब्रेकर है, वहाँ पे खड्डे आते हैं, देख के
Yeah.
चलना पड़ता है, वहाँ पे बड़ा ब्यूटीफुल होता है, वहाँ पे सनशाइन होती है, वी नो. But other roads we can explore together. He should have company in his parents. Ki, you know, this is a unknown path, and I have my parents to walk it with me,
Yeah.
and we'll explore. We'll get somewhere.
And it also opens new dimensions even to your life as parents, right?
We will get to learn so much.
Yeah, I heard that he also tells you a lot about black holes and
Oh
all
my
these things.
God, yeah. His interest for physics, and now his absolute love for Hitler is like giving me a very different perspective of who that person was.
Yeah, very fascinating, because even though the path was wrong, but he did make it to the
Yeah,
top, and the kind of control that he
Of
managed.
course. And Rishit always says that, you know, where he started off, how he started, why he wanted this, is because he wanted to support the Germans. Don't we all want to, you know, support our tribe?
Right.
But then power takes you somewhere else. That's a different journey. And,
Yeah.
and there has been so many other people who have been equally or even more brutal, even in today's day and age.
Yeah.
But why are we not looking at the intent of this person and how passionately he believed that he wanted to do and he could do something for the Germans? So I'm digressing, but these are perspectives that when I sit and study with him, when I sit and talk about these things, and when we go visit museums and the Smithsonian's and the shows that we watch together, the documentaries, it just opens up windows for me.
For sure. No, I can imagine. And your son's really fortunate to have you as his mother.
I'm equally fortunate.
Yeah.
We both are equally fortunate to have him. He's a very, very sensitive, beautiful person. I mean, we take no credits because, you know, we are not manufacturers, we are nurturers. So, you know, from the same bus stand, there's a small child who boards the bus with him. He's slightly not with the pace of students his age, but I've seen Rishit taking care of him. He drops him to his classroom every day, carries his bag, makes sure he has a seat in the bus to sit, carries his umbrella. When it's raining, he will take care of him. "Tum aa jao, tum aa jao." So these things, I haven't told him, कि ये करना होगा तुमको, you have to do this. He does it because he finds happiness in this. And what better, you know, validation that you can get as a parent, that you're a parent of a beautiful child, and that's such a gift.
Imagine, you know, like the kind of validation that you get from something like this is way more than them topping the class, or, you know, something.
Yeah. And tomorrow, so I always say this, we are on stage for 2-3 hours a day. But 22-21 hours we are off stage. What about that person? What validation can you get? How many people would applaud? So applause and validation and wah-wah is good, but it's not all that you can have in life and all that you can define your life with. That's not who we are.
Because the way your childhood was a bit different to how possibly your son's is, where, you know, you've shared how you used to practice for 8 hours a day. You used to, you know, there was no clock when you're doing your riyas, and also seeing other kids, they might be, you know, playing, etc., but maybe your life is very different. And today, I'm sure it has paid off, because the kind of technical brilliance that you possess is thanks to those years that you've put in. But beyond technical brilliance, what goes into the making of a maestro? Because I believe that if someone is practicing as much as you, they still don't become Kaushiki Chakravarti or any other prolific artist. What goes beyond technical brilliance to make a maestro?
I think two very important things which are somehow intertwined. One is the state of mind, and one is your perspective to life. And that, I think, decides why you do music. Because the technical side is learning the what and the how. So what are you practicing, and what you want to sing and how you want to sing is the technical part of music. But what is important is why you sing. And that why cannot be taught. That why is a very individual finding. It's more introspective. So I think along with the learning of the skills, practicing of the techniques, I think this is a parallel journey which has to be also taught and guided by by gurus, by people you mingle with, by
Mm.
friends you choose, by role models you choose in life, by finding amazing things in ordinary people. So I think that this lookout and this way of living life translates into what you sing. Because I'll tell you something, you can take a tan, you can do so many permutation combinations, you can choose so many sargams and so much so speed and whatever. So these are things you can. But whether you choose to do that in a particular song will be decided by why you are singing that song. If the reason for you to sing that song is to express an emotion, you don't need a tan. And then that tan looks technically amazing, but ugly in that perspective. Because it just changes the balance. It ruins the subtlety, the softness, the texture of that emotion. So it is it's also keeping your, like a kitchen knife. I always say this to Rishit because whenever he sits for practice, he wants to do 260 tempo and tan and like tan and more tan, like bullets and all that. So he's small, he enjoys doing that and all that, but it's fine. But the thing is, you have a kitchen knife. We all have kitchen knives at home, but do we hurt each other with that? So just because you have a tan, will you attack me with a tan with every piece of music? That's not right. And what is happening, and I'm glad we are on a platform which has great potential, but with any great potential comes great risks. So we are at a platform where things have been restricted to 90 seconds. And then in a 90-second, you are a practicing musician, you would understand. The first alap of a rag is 15 minutes. The first Vilambit Bandish, which is the soul and ethos and the being of the rag, the atma of the rag, it's half an hour. And the Drut composition is about 15 minutes. And that crazy mad Tan part is about 4-5 minutes. So if you have to bring all of that in 90 minutes, you go on any of these platforms, Kaushiki Chakraborty will be defined by tans, and more tans and more hitting the third octave. But is that all that I am? But and is that all that what I represent? I represent a craft. I represent an art form. I represent a sense of value, um, something that I'm very tactile about it. I can smell, touch, feel music the way I do. But maybe it's a very abstract way to kind of translate that to people. But is it at all possible to translate that in any way in that 90 seconds where I'm going crazy in that tan part, which is one part of the journey? We don't run always. We also sit and dream. We also sit and just stare at a blank wall at some time. And when it comes to who we are, all of that is who we are. But if musically, if one has to be defined only by one aspect, I think forget me. It's not very fair for the form of music that I am representing, that I am a messenger of. So that is why it is important that talented, gifted musicians, I can only talk about music, but I'm sure there are similar challenges in every other art form, that we also teach them that, that the core values of life, how to look at life, how to set your perspective of life, so that what you learn, the techniques, the application, the right space to apply it, when it's needed. You have 1 year, how many earrings can you wear? And depends where you're going. So if you're not dressed for the proper ceremony properly, then you're a misfit. Similarly, if you're using a skill set just because you've practiced it and it's not going with the song, then you're not choosing your skill set intelligently, smartly. So I think that choice also has to be learned. कुछ भी गले में आता है, मतलब किसी भी गाने में कुछ भी करेंगे ताकि वो गाना खराब हो जाए, हमको पता ही ना चले, because I am just in my head thinking what else I can do. That is not the purpose of music.
Exactly. Thank you so much for sharing this because it's so precious. And I think a lot of people are trying to just show off कि देखो मैं तान ले सकता हूँ, मैं ये कर सकता हूँ, but that's not the purpose, right? I was in conversation with Shubha Mudgal ji, and she mentioned that there's a concept of tasir in Hindustani classical, which is the ability to touch someone's heart, and that is the purpose of music. And you cannot touch someone's heart when you're not feeling it in your heart.
It's the purpose of life. You know, we were talking about legacy. The only legacy that you can leave behind, which is the most valuable legacy, that after you're gone, the person who's sitting there, a part of you remains in that person's heart. And that legacy we can leave behind with everyone we meet. Then why pressurizing one child to carry that? You can leave that legacy, a bit of that, in every heart that you ever get to meet.
And Kaushik, I've also had the good fortune of watching you live. And when one watches you live, you're singing the most difficult things, but it looks absolutely effortless. So, how is that happening, firstly? And secondly, are there any other things also that you keep in mind when you're on stage that whatever might be going on in my mind need not be shown outside?
No.
No.
No. So many people ask this, that you have very carefully curated your presentation. Trust me, I'm very stupid to be able to do that. It's a great compliment when someone thinks that I can do it, but no. What I've done is see, we all start with skill, and then we come to craft, and then something happens, and in a moment it becomes art.
Yeah.
So we are not artists 24/7. We are craftsmen, good craftsmen. But in a moment of magic, you become an artist. And that moment might stay for some time, might just go away. Some of the performances are, there's a lot of effort. Some of the performances are totally effortless and you're totally at ease. And so I think the ease defines the art. If you're totally at ease, which means you, it's coincidental that you mentioned Shubhaji. I heard her say that, you know, you have to learn so much, but then when you're on stage, when you're performing, you have to unlearn everything and then be something else. So I totally feel that, and I totally experience that. The moment you let go of who you are, what you have practiced, what you have learned, how many times you've done that, how good you are at that, and you just give in to the vibrations that are trying to resonate through you. I know it's very abstract. I'm getting into a space which is very difficult to even talk about. But if this makes sense, this is how it feels. So you become transparent. You are not anything. So you can become everything. So till the point you are this thing, you are not that thing. But if you're not this or that, you are nothing. Then only you can be everything. So for an artist, I think the process has to start from undoing everything and going to a point where you're nothing. And from there, something takes over and makes you the best thing that you can be in that moment, on that day.
But Kaushik ji, when you say something takes over you and vibrations that are trying to resonate through you, is that also why you're so humble? Because then you feel like,
I don't have an ownership. You tell me, you give me a date, you give me the best auditorium in the world, you give me the best audience in the world, and you ask me that you have to guarantee that this has to be the best performance. Can I guarantee that? So what am I taking ownership of? If I can't guarantee my best performance, given everything best, which means it's something beyond me, मेरे कंट्रोल में है ही नहीं, तो फिर जब सब वाह वाह कर रहे हैं, वो मेरे लिए क्यों मैं सोच लूँ कि मेरे लिए है सब कुछ? It's something that happens through me. Like my child happened through me. I don't have an ownership. I have a responsibility. So responsibility without ownership is a very bottom line absolute truth of Indian spirituality.
this is brilliant. And, because
That is why music is called sadhana. It's not called, mere repetitive practice. Sangeet sadhana bolte. Because it's an inward journey. It's an inner dialogue. And of course, the ease that you're talking about, I'm not saying you sit one day and you feel ease. It's a mad grind. For the first 15, 20 years of my life, I didn't know anything apart from the Tanpura, and I didn't even count the hours that I practiced. I would fall asleep, again somebody will wake me up, again sit back, Again start singing. I would call my mother and say हाथ में दर्द हो रहा है तानपुरा बजाने से, my fingers are hurting. Okay, fingers are hurting. थोड़ी देर अभी इलेक्ट्रॉनिक तानपुरा को चलाओ, that rattle small thing that we had, बक्सा types. So that उसको थोड़ा सा चलाओ, 15 minutes का break ले लो, तानपुरा मत बजाओ लेकिन गाते रहो. और 15 minutes के बाद somebody would come and switch off that electronic तानपुरा, again तानपुरा बजाओ, 15 minute का rest हो गया fingers को. So we had a very small house, very small space. Baba used to have students coming in. Bathroom में बैठ के भी रियाज किया है. Bathroom reverbs are the best, I think.
100%.
Bathroom में there was one side which was the dry side. उसमें तानपुरा लेके बैठ के घंटों रियाज की मैंने. I had rings in this finger. There's a pearl ring, I think something. So I used to play the tanpura here and used to put tali khali here. मतलब ताली तानपुरे के ऊपर बजाने से ना, वो तानपुरे के वो लौकी का जो है ना उसके ऊपर बजाने से it gives a louder sound, ठाक ठाक करके आवाज. So we didn't have metronomes and all that, didn't have these apps. So उसमें बजाते थे. Every week मेरा जो रिंग है ना वो फ्लैट हो जाता था नीचे. And every week my mother had to take it back to वो ज्वेलर कि उसको फिर से गोल बना दो क्योंकि अभी fingers were hurting. So that ease is not a overnight thing.
100%.
When you do the grind, then it becomes easy for you. Then it comes to you when you want it.
Yeah.
But then when you want it is the most important thing. You choose to do that. And that choice, I think, that is why we are students all our lives. Because everything we learn in life defines that choice. कि जब गाने बैठेंगे तो कौन सा गाना हम कैसे गाएंगे. That depends on a human plane, on a psychological plane, on a spiritual plane, where I stand on that day, at that moment.
You've done such incredible tapasya, if I may say, and not just technically, but also as a person, and I have mad respect for that, Kaushiki ji. The most fun I've seen Lata ji have in anyone's concert is actually your concert. You're singing Rangi Sari, and at every line, Lata ji is giving expression like, she's enjoying it. But, you had the good fortune of knowing her. What is it about Lata ji that made her extraordinary? Because there have been so many other playback singers, but only Lata ji is like a giant that no one's been able to match.
She's not a playback singer.
Yeah, I agree.
She's one who defines perfection. She's one who defines discipline. She's one who defines perseverance. She's one who defines never letting your vulnerability, your weaknesses, your preferences of life ever deviate you from the focus that you have set for yourself.
Yeah.
These are human goals. And I mean, after this entire conversation, I think what I'm leaving with everyone here and in my head, again, revalidating that is, yes, music is very important, but it's a part of life. You can't enhance it without enhancing the life. So every life choice, every life experience, every life realization, it will come across in your music. But if the life is not changing, then you can't just take music out of it and say this is a brilliant thing.
Yeah.
So I think that is one thing about Lata ji, how the life she lived and the way she lived. We have never seen that side of her where she didn't do something because it would have taken her away from the focus. She always made it look like this is what I choose. Because every waking moment, to consciously choose what you choose is a very difficult discipline. We always get, it's very slippery, we always get deviated. हर रोज सबको पता है कि हर रोज रियाज करना पड़ता है, लेकिन किसी किसी दिन मिस हो जाता है. अरे सुबह नहीं ऐसे मन कर रहा है उठने का, ठीक है 1 घंटे बाद उठेंगे, एंड देन यू हैव अ बिजी डे, मिस हो गया रियाज. आई डोंट थिंक दैट वुड हैव एवर हैपेंड विद लता जी. सो विदाउट इवन लिविंग द लाइफ विद हर, knowing who she is such a lesson that this life is a lesson. This life is a book you need to read. This life is a book that you need to refer to whenever your life is in question. Whenever your choices are in question, whenever you're confused, you just look at this one person and that sets a benchmark कि वो होते तो कभी ऐसा होता नहीं, मतलब ये गलत है, मतलब नहीं करना चाहिए.
Yeah, it can be a guide for your whole life.
It is a guide for all of us. She's a book, she's a lesson, she's a benchmark that she's set for generations to come.
In fact, when you mention focus, I remember Lata ji mentioning the story in one of her interviews where for some reason some government officials had come to her house and they had to take away her car. And they've come home, they're taking away her car. The way she reacted was, oh, all right, you can take the car, because I can't deal with this right now. I have a recording to go to. So she just went to her recording, did her work, then came back and then sorted it out. And she said that during her recording, she was not bothered by anything that was happening. And that level of focus is so incredible.
Mental discipline.
Yeah.
To say this is a different thing, but then to go to that recording and then be messed up in your head, that's what normal people would do. So she's not normal, she's not ordinary, she's not one of us, she's not like she's not like us. So, and if we admire that, then I think it's an everyday reminder that this is what is possible. This is a human being has lived this life and shown it to the world that it's possible.
Kaushik ji, I'll be a bit greedy right now and maybe make a small request only if you're comfortable. Anything that you love of Lata ji, could you please sing a few lines?
Everything I love. I'll sing the song that I sang for her for the first time I met at her home, which is her Abhang, Sundarati Dhyana. So I had learned this and I wanted to sing it, but I knew it somewhere that I wouldn't sing it if she doesn't give me permission, because I just needed her to be okay with how I'm singing it. And you can understand going there at her place, empty, nobody there, sitting, on the floor where she's sitting on the sofa, and to be able to sing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star is also so different.
I can imagine.
And I'm trying to sing this her song and to her, and I'm feeling like a stupid, but it's an inner compulsion. I need her to say, okay, kya aap jaake ga sakte ho. And I wanted her to know that, I want to sing it and I need your permission. But yeah, so I'll sing that. Sundarati dhyan ubhe vitevari, Sundarati dhyan ubhe vitevari, Sundarati dhyan ubhe vitevari, karkataveri, karkataveri, thevuniya, Sundarati dhyan ubhe vitevari, Sundarati dhyan.
Wow, so beautiful, Kaushik ji. Directly hits the heart. Thank you so much for this.
It's the power of the composition, of course, and it's also the power of what rings in my ears, which is her voice.
And this is like our dedication to Lata ji wherever she is. Yeah. Kaushik ji, when someone has a talent like you do, why do we not see you a lot more in Bollywood? Because in my humble opinion, at least, I can see you sing much better than most of the people that are singing in the industry.
I would like to question your question. Is singing for Bollywood a progress for a singer?
No, not at
Then
all.
why do I need to?
But why do you also not need to?
Because I don't feel like it's a choice. Like so many Bollywood singers don't choose to sing for a Savai Gandharv. I don't choose to sing for a movie, and I've never aspired to do that. I have too many friends, too many people who I can work with, and I'm comfortable working with in the film industry scene. But that's not something where I totally find my expression. And no offense, but I think my music is my narrative, my music is my hero, my music is my center stage. I don't see my music as a supporting element that would be defined by another narrative. So in a movie, you can only keep a song, put a song, which will be decided by what the movie is telling, what the story of the movie is. For me, the song itself is a story. For me, the song itself is the character. And the song is center stage. It's not playback. It's never background music. It's always on the foreground. It's always center stage. So why do I need to put it backstage and say that there's another narrative and you have a supporting role?
Yeah. No, like the only reason is that possibly it has a larger mass appeal. And with that, then it also helps draw in more people to classical music.
That I doubt. That I doubt.
That's true.
Because so many thumris have been used, so many bandishes have been used in movies.
Yeah.
Did that help classical music? No, it didn't. Because movies, like they choose a character. If they choose a thumri, they also want that thumri to play a character. So the thumri has to change to fit into the character. So how a thumri is sung by a Begum Akhtar or a Shubha Gurtu, that thumri, the way it is, cannot be put in a movie. That thumri has to become something else. So rather my fear is that 100 years down the line, if thumri is defined by the ones that are used in movies, then are we really doing a service or a disservice to the art form? Because what is the art form? The originality and the authenticity of the art form is its signature. Not when it's tweaked to fit into another narrative. So imagine if every form of art is tweaked to fit into a Bollywood movie narrative, then how do everything is a clone. Then how do I know you and identify you from somebody else? Then your identity, your signature, your ethos, your essence has been changed. And imagine how risky it is when that medium is so powerful. How many people would have heard Gaurjan? But so many people would have heard a thumri in a movie perspective. So they know that to be a thumri. They don't know Gaurjan to be a thumri. They don't know Begum Akhtar to be a thumri. They don't know Shubha Gurtu to be a thumri. They know that, which is not the authentic form with its essence. So I would rather, if I have 5 people who listens to me, I would rather tell them this is the authentic character. This is who thumri is. This is who the identity is. This is who essentially the character is. And this doesn't have to fit into someone else's character.
No, this makes a lot of sense. And
last but not the least, I don't want to sound... Anyway, I don't want to sound like, I'm doing like a huge thing or something. But I think that, riding a faster moving vehicle for my benefit, which doesn't necessarily facilitate and help my craft and my art form to evolve, is little selfish for a messenger of the art. If tomorrow my son finds a more talented lady and thinks that, this lady is a better choice to be a mother and abandons me, then I'll not be happy. My craft, my art form is depending on me to speak for itself. I can't abandon it because some other art form has a louder speaker and it reaches more people. I'll talk softly to 5 people, but I say about my art form, something that holds me together, something that has nourished me to be who I am. I would rather stay committed and invested and speak for it.
no, this is actually, it's opened up my mind also. And thank you so much for the kind of service that you're doing for the art form, because it's people like you that are keeping it alive. So I'm quite grateful that you're doing this, Kaushik.
I think the art form is keeping me alive and keeping me sane in so many ways.
100%.
And I'm just reciprocating. I'm just reciprocating the gratitude that I have for the form, for what it has given me and what it has made me and what it is making me every day.
Well, Kaushik, when I look at your life, the kind of work that you're doing, the kind of background that you come from, on a human level, I'd imagine there's a lot of pressure on you throughout. Like first, you're Pandit Ajay Chakravarti ji's daughter. Then, now you're an established, prolific artist yourself. When do you unwind? How do you unwind? And is there a constant pressure to be perfect all the time?
I wouldn't say totally no. Yes, there is. But I think since I've been given the gift of this pressure with all the blessings that it came with from a very, very early childhood, I think I've gotten used to it. It doesn't feel like a burden anymore,
Yeah.
but I acknowledge that it's there. There's no point denying it. There's no point saying, no, it's hunky. No. I never got to be a stupid, useless child who says 5 things which are insignificant but sometimes awkward and puts parents into a place where it's like, Arey, bachche ne aisa keh diya. I've never been that child. I have never been that performer who was allowed to make mistakes. I can never be that mother who can be stupid at times. And of course, the performer's responsibility is of a very different level. And the phase of life that I am in, with my age, with the kind of journey that I've done, I also realized that too many people who are younger, who are small, they see me and they want to do things like me.
Yeah.
So that is also a responsibility. I can't fail them. So yes, there are responsibilities, but don't we all have responsibilities? But I think we also find a way to deal with them. We also find a way to sometimes unwind. We also find a way to sometimes find a pacifier. For me, nature is the biggest pacifier. We as a family, we travel a lot to places which doesn't have phone networks, and we hike and we climb mountains and we do stupid things, like inconsequential things, not thinking of what it is. Is it going to create an example? No. And lately, in the last couple of years, I think I've gathered the strength to talk about these things, to come out and say that, yes, when I go to mountains, when I post a picture, people ask that, what rag did you think about? I said, I didn't sing for 5 days. I didn't want to sing. So in a way, I'm also saying that I missed my riyaz for 5 days or 6 days or maybe 10 days. And maybe in a way, I'm also saying it's okay.
And that you're human.
And I'm a human. I'm a singer, but I'm not only a singer and nothing else. I'm a piece of life first. So if I don't live the life that I am, I can't live anything. And so that's one very definite, I think that took a lot of courage for me to do that, to buy my first DSLR and to genuinely live the passion of photography. I'm not a professional photographer. I'm not very good at it, but I'm okay. But I try. I love to do that. So that's one thing that I love to do. I love to cook. And I try to take solo trips, which is very unusual, I think, for mothers and wives and daughters and sisters to do. So and I generally disappear for 3-4 days.
You need that, when no one's watching over you.
And when I am not playing a role, when I'm with my family, no one's watching. It's just us. But I remember my son saying that we were on a holiday somewhere in India and people would come and take selfies and all. He was very small at that time. He said, Mama, can we go somewhere where nobody knows you? So I realized that even this one who doesn't have the words to say is also feeling claustrophobic. That, why? And in our country, not everybody has that, that those sensibilities that, even if you recognize someone, it's just she's in her own space. So it's okay. Just let's leave that person alone. It's easier when you're abroad. So so I generally take solo trips and I have an amazing friend circle who has nothing to do with music, who understands nothing about classical music, and to the extent sometimes makes fun of it, but they love me to no end, and they are my reality check. They are my normalcy test, that not everything in the world is about tanpura and the number of hours and the tans and the vistars and the correctness of a rag and perfection, being the perfect person on screen and for people. So that's where I think I unwind.
No, absolutely, because I can imagine that most people that meet you have some sort of reverence for you and are all the time obsessed.
You have to meet my friends.
No, I'm saying that is what you need to, feel normal. Because otherwise everyone's like, oh.
For a small a day trip that I did with my friends, and we went to a small resort. We just wanted to spend the day. And we were sitting by the pool chatting, doing our rubbish, some people cycling and all. So 2 people came and they wanted a selfie with me. 2 of my friends, 50 rupees each. Up, So that's how awkward they can make you feel. Then हाँ कोई बात नहीं, हमारा खाने का बिल अभी आने में 50 रुपीज दीजिए, यहाँ पे रख के जाओ, फोटो खींच के जाओ, हमको कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. So they're absolute ruckus. But you know, you need such people. And I think I'm very, very blessed with my family because nobody takes me seriously. And my home is, you know, there's no one photo of me, you know, in a concert setup or with an instrument or like an attire. ऐसे साड़ी वाड़ी पहन के big earrings and how you've seen me, of course. So there's nothing like that at home. So when you enter the home, my home is only about kitchen and chatting and doing rubbish and quilling and all that, you know, that has nothing to do with where I go and how I perform and what concert was a success. There's no discussion about that.
Then this is where you'll face all kinds of emotions in your life, which then you can bring into your music, no?
It just enriches the life. Even though I mean, I'm sure there will be a day when I'll choose not to sing regularly for the audience at some point. But I still have to live a life which is full, which is content, which is happy, which is joyous.
Yeah, it has to be a whole life.
So my retirement plan is I go to the mountains, I make a small hut, 2-storied, and it has to be an Airbnb, and I cook for the guests. So that's my ambition.
And become a part-time wildlife photographer.
Yeah, and during the day I take photos and I cook really well. So I'm a good cook. So my son's friends, they think I'm a better cook than a singer. They're like, Auntie, you sing very well, but you cook much better.
That I really doubt.
So that's how seriously I'm taken by my family and friends around. So that's such a relief.
Kaushiki ji, I wanted to take you a bit to the Bollywood scene right now, where as a generation we are not being able to understand why songs today don't have the kind of longevity that they used to have earlier. As a listener of Bollywood, have you been able to decipher what's going wrong?
Nothing going wrong, too much happening. That's the only thing. Because earlier, you know, movies, the intervals between two movies, even non-film, why only, you know, blaming Bollywood for everything? I mean, it's not the only thing. Even non-film, we used to wait for a Durga Puja for new songs to come, non-film songs, one cassette. Even the artists would wait कि Durga Puja में एक cassette होगा and 8 songs will come. That will define that artist for the next 1 year. So imagine the kind of work, the kind of thoughts, the kind of practice, the kind of preparation that went in. When you know that for the next 1 year, these 8 songs will be your benchmark. So that when there's too much happening, you go in an autopilot mode. Then you're looking at numbers, you're looking at quantity, you're looking at, you know, delivering more and more and more and more. So when you deliver more, it's like 1 cup of milk, and then if you have to make 5 cups from this amount of milk, creativity is not a machine. Creativity comes at its own time. So it's not a healthy space. That's what it is. And because now mediums are too many. Movie is one of them. Now there's OTT, now there's digital, now there's social media. And everyone has to constantly deliver. ये ऐसा बिस्किट बनाने का कारखाना थोड़ी ना है. So you're making songs, you're making creative art forms like 5 songs every day. ऐसा थोड़ी ना होता. It doesn't work like that. So some songs are great. You know, some songs are beautiful. But not every song is coming from that source. From the composer, from the lyricist, from the singer, from the producers, from everyone. So they're also human beings. There's a fatigue, there's a creative block. These are not fancy words. These are real things. These are real, because we are not machines. And it's not a thing that is being made. It's a piece of your heart. How can you prescribe someone to deliver 10 pieces of your heart every Tuesday? It's impossible. So it doesn't work like that. So we're expecting human beings to become machineries. Yes, nahi hota. So that is why not majority of the songs will be excellent, amazing. There will be repetitions. There will be the same wahi phrases, that sound, that loop, that guitar riffs, that drum grooves coming back and back and back, because by the time you're doing the song for another movie, you must have done 25 songs in the last 10 days. So you don't remember what you had done in the third song. It's coming back in the 17th song. It's not, nobody's to be blamed. But, और ज़्यादा ये कंजम्पशन और ये जो दिस ओवर कंजम्पशन एंड ओवर प्रोडक्शन का जो लूप में हम फंसे हुए हैं ना, it's just going down the rabbit hole sometimes because we are asking for something from human beings which the species is not equipped with. Creativity was never to be prescribed, come in numbers. It's never meant to be like that. As a species, you can't do that.
Yeah, no, I can also imagine because what you pointed out also explains why remixes are coming again and again. Because when you have crazy deadlines, you're like, अरे वही composition hit है, उठा के डाल लो.
ये जो आपने कहा ना कि ये हिट है, मतलब अगला 15 कॉम्पोजिशन वैसे ही बनाना पड़ेगा. That's not creativity. That's repetition. And repetition and creativity are, universes apart. अगर आप सोच रहे हैं कि, और ये हम बहुत बोलते हैं कि ऑडियंस को ये चाहिए है. Now tell me one thing, artists and art forms were made by exclusive people. जिन्होंने ऑडियंस को ये सिखाया है कि ये भी हो सकता है. उनको ये नहीं दिया है कि जो उनको चाहिए. अगर एज एन आर्टिस्ट आई गिव यू व्हाट यू वांट, then your level and my level is same. As an artist, my level should be of a different standard of caliber and understanding of my art form. So I should give you something that you never expected, that you never knew existed. I'm supposed to surprise you every time. Instead, we are catering to your wants and your needs. So matlab majority is deciding the quality. Then where are we asking for exclusivity? इतना numbers में, इतना loads में अगर काम चाहिए और consumption के लिए, मतलब consumption, production, whatever you call it, both the ends, अगर चाहिए तो उसमें compromise quality होगा ही. You can't. It's how the ecosystem works. So, but I think it is, I don't know, I don't want to be proved wrong, I hope I'm right, but I think it is coming to a point of, saturation and people are getting exhausted.
Correct. I think that awareness has come about now because everyone's waiting for that song that can last 50 years or 100 years. We are all waiting.
There is a need for that, and I think and you know what, this entire digital space is such a powerful tool that has been given to human beings जिसके लिए हम तैयार नहीं थे.
No, thank you for pointing this out because I know a lot of young people watching this look up to you. And when someone like you shares this, they find the courage to break out from the noise and do what their heart tells them to do. So,
Always, whenever I meet youngsters, I always tell them that don't post every day. Work on something for 5 days and on the 6th day, post it. So that what you post has a quality and you know that you deserve the accolades that you are getting. Not just somebody watching it and giving it a like or saying superb. Now to our superlatives are also मतलब कम पड़ रहे. Everything starts with awesome, amazing, superb. मतलब कुछ ordinary होता ही नहीं. I'm waiting for someone to say you sang ordinary. All superlatives, we are exhausted. तो वैसा नहीं है. मतलब you also feel that, your conscience also feels that yes, in my capacity this was pretty awesome. So you work on something for 5 days, give it 5 days. And on the 6th day, on a Saturday, or a Sunday, post it and say that this is what I've been working on.
and this kind of validation also limits growth then for them. And Kaushik, I see a similar pattern when it comes to reality shows because I've seen that the judges are being told that you have to compliment ये वो, because when the judge compliments, then the audience thinks अच्छा judge ने बोला है तो अच्छा ही होगा, but then that doesn't really help the contestants grow.
It's called judge. Person is not called audience. So there's a difference between the judge and the audience. I think what they're trying to do for reality shows is that they don't want to demoralize the younger generation, saying that हाँ आप अच्छा कर रहे हो, it's a good effort. But ये बोलना कि आपने ओरिजिनल से भी बेहतर गाया, ये थोड़ा it's overshooting it. But yes, I understand कि demoralize करना, हम जब छोटे थे कभी अच्छा बोला ही नहीं जाता था. It was a norm कि जो बड़े हैं वो बच्चों को कभी अच्छा नहीं बोलेंगे. नहीं, you need lot of work. अभी तो कुछ नहीं हो रहा है, 2 पैसे का गाना नहीं आता. That's all I've heard all my childhood. But things have changed. Now they need little validation कि हाँ अच्छा हो रहा है. But अच्छा हो रहा है पे खत्म ना हो जाए. अच्छा हो रहा है और अच्छा हो सकता है. देखो कैसे हो सकता है. And these are the ways that you can do. Now you choose how you want to do it. But don't stop working on yourself. It's not that you've reached there.
Yeah. Because I know some national level shows also that are later in the post-production auto-tuning what the contestant has sung. Now, that's quite ridiculous, because then there's no point to the contest if everyone's singing perfectly. So if you're going to do these things, and in my personal experience, I've stayed out of reality shows because outright also some shows that have approached me have said, "Acha, aapka story kya hai?"
हाँ.
So there's a lot more that goes
Yeah,
into
so
winning a show.
what we are doing is this is a reality show. So what we all have to understand that it's predominantly a show.
It's entertainment.
Yeah, it's not, bringing you the reality of a process of, a singer evolving, a student of music evolving. That happens behind the closed doors. When you work on yourself, you make ridiculous mistakes, you learn, you're frustrated. I go back to my music copies, every second, third page will say, मेरे से गाना बजाना नहीं होने वाला. मतलब, I'm ridiculous, I'm so bad, I'm awful. Because that's all you heard from your guru, whose benchmark is important, whose validation is important. Now coming back to that, if the judges are saying कि बहुत अच्छा है, then आपको वो जो भूख है ना कि और करना है, अच्छा करना है, that might be satiated. कि हाँ अच्छा बोल दिया, बहुत इतना अच्छा का, क्या बात है, amazing. So I think there has to be a balance between, हाँ encourage ज़रूर करना चाहिए, but encourage करो to be better. Not encourage them and say कि you are the best, there's nothing more that you can do. That's not anybody. We are all work in progress. हम सब यहाँ जहाँ पे है वहाँ से थोड़ा बेहतर हो सकते हैं.
When the contestants leave the show, then reality strikes that I'm not the best. So, suddenly there's a big drop in their mentality. So,
Reality show should be show the reality.
yeah. Absolutely. Kaushiki ji, during my research, I also understood that you've learned Hindustani classical music and Carnatic classical music, and that's something that not many do. Can you take us through what the essence is of both the schools and how are they different? And when should one decide to learn both? Is that needed or not?
So, is it recommended that one should learn both? Not in the beginning, not at all, not at all. So, in one of these schools of thought, one should learn for a very long time, so that one finds himself or herself very settled and at ease with that. Because it's like defining what your home is and then going to your friend's place. So if you go to your friend's place too frequently, then the definition of what is home and where you go sometime, that definition and that balance gets a little messed up. So I went to learn Carnatic music after my bachelor's. So between my bachelor's and master's, I took 1 year gap because I wanted to go to Chennai, spend as much time as possible with Dr. M. Balamurali Krishna ji, my Guruji, so that I not only pick up compositions, but I understand the thought process, I understand the ethos of it. Because I was firstly fascinated with the idea that this small country of ours, the two parts of the country has two different varieties of music which are so similar yet so different. And it's not a huge country. It's a very small geographically it's a very small piece of land. But then how is music so diverse? And both are classical music, both have the same names of rags and tal, and so basic principles are all same. But yet the sound of it, the approach of it is so different. So I just wanted to understand what are the similarities, what is different, how is it the same thing, how is it not the same thing, how is principally the ideas and the progressions of it are same, but how it sounds to me is totally different. I know what they're doing, but I can't do it that way. I know they're doing an alapana or something like that. I know there's a composition, I know there's a rag, I know there's a time cycle, tal. I know it has to come in a certain way, come back to a point. But it's so different. So though from outside I kind of get a vague idea about the construct, but I can't touch it. It's like that. It was such a mysterious thing. This is my childhood, and Baba was doing a lot of duet concerts with Shesh Gopalanji, with many other musicians. And that was my primary introduction. Like everything in life, musically, my primary introduction was always through Baba, because he was trying out different things and I was a part of it. And I always used to extensively travel with him, and that gave me an overview of a lot of things. So I saw them sit and discuss the pieces, curate the show, and draw parallels between tarana and a tillana, a kriti and a bandish, a kirtana and a bhajan. So those were introductions कि हाँ relation है, लेकिन कैसे है, कितना है. तो that is why I wanted to spend time and learn and really understand, not just कि हाँ देखा है वो, ऐसा नहीं. So
But is there like a element that learning Carnatic added to your singing?
I think, but it's not something that you can take out from my performance and put a finger and say yes this. But I think rhythmically a lot of things I have it has automatically come in my expression. And also permutation combination wise, some varieties of dynamics, some varieties of approaching a note, that also has happened. And of course repertoire wise, you sing, I sing both the repertoires. Sometimes a tarana with a tillana, sometimes with a kriti, sometimes when I sing ragas which has a parallel, like an abhogi or a hamsadwani or a kalavati, I try in some way or the other, I try to also see the rag from the Carnatic perspective within my Hindustani framework. So that is a very refreshing change for the audience. Maybe they might not be able to point it out कि हाँ ये part Carnatic था, but it also if this is the rag and you're looking at it from this side, you also get a chance to look at it from a different side. That the concept of murchana is not very regularly used in Hindustani music performances. So I think that's one thing that, and it's a very regular thing for Graha Bhedam is a very regular thing for Carnatic performances. So I think that's one thing that I've tried to explore into. Though we have some of the examples of Bade Khan Saab's presentation where he sang in a Bhopali presentation, he would bring all the other pentatonic rags by changing the notes, the sharaj. But that was kind of it, not extensively doing that always. But in a Carnatic performance, that's a very regular thing, and it's a very beautiful element. So these things are things that must have had, an impact.
For sure. No, I think it's the more you learn, the more you grow. So it's always good. But Kaushik ji, because I've also been a student of classical music, what I've seen, the way I've seen it is that with classical music, it's a brilliant way to grow your technical skills. There's a structured way to reach where you want to reach. But at the same time, when we talk about a bandish, the word itself suggests that bandha, or rag ke notes mein bandha hua. So do you see classical music as confining in nature, and when you add the element of a gharana to it, you're also restricted to a certain style? So as a musician, at least I have personally seen that yes, I have immense respect for any sort of classical schools, but at the same time I don't wish to call myself a classical artist, because why limit myself in the future? But I don't know, this is me asking for guidance. Yeah.
As I I would always like to think that there are so many ways to look at anything. So many different ways. So why is a bandish called a bandish? Because apart from those 4 lines, everything is open to interpretation. So उतना ही बंधा हुआ है, बाकी सब छोड़ के रखा है. So there's a lot of space for you to explore and find out. And there's also a structure. So it's like homecoming. मतलब आप जाके वहाँ से घूम के अपना काम करके घूम फिर के दोस्तों से मिलके, you have a place to come back. And that bandish, especially for Hindustani performances, Hindustani school of thought, that bandish is not overpowering. That bandish also allows improvisation. So if you're singing a bandish which is Lat ulji sulja ja balama, you're not supposed to sing this line always like this. Lat ulji sulja ja balama, lat ulji sulja ja balama. Which other music allows that? It doesn't. And the concept of rag can also be a confining factor if one thinks like that. But in a lag ja gale, can you sing lag ja gale? You can't. So this is not a rag, but there's a structure. So in classical music, that structure is called a bihag. But that's also a structure. In a lag ja gale, you can't sing a tivra madhyam. In a Lagjagali, you can't sing a Komalda. And like in Bihag, you can't sing a Komalga. But this structure is complete in itself with some variations that you can do.
Yeah.
And this structure is complete in itself with a variation, with a possibility of variation that has been left to you.
Absolutely. I see.
So you're not confined with 30 phrases that you've been given. That you sing phrase number 3, then 5, then 18, then 60, then whatever. You're not bound by that. You've been given a rag that you can interpret on that day as you wish. The next day you sing the same rag, you might choose to interpret and improvise it with totally different dimensions.
100%. Like, I see a lot of scope for improvisation, like you mentioned, especially Khayal Gaiki. 98% I'd say is on the spot.
We only have 8 lines that are composed. Vilambit ka 4 line or Drut ka 4 line. This 8 lines you learn.
But is there any hack or tools that one can use to improve their creativity, especially for Khayal Gaiki?
Of course. That's all about.
You have to train your brain. Yeah.
Train your brain and train your voice to follow your brain. Enhance the brain and the possibilities that come to you, and enhance the voice so that it can capture and execute those possibilities. So it's a constant growing process. You create in your brain, you express it through your voice. You evolve the brain so that you can create better, imagine better. You evolve the voice so that it can execute it better.
Kaushik ji, you mentioned Gauhar Jan, and I had the good fortune of actually attending your show, remembering the divas, which are so brilliant. And we also had Hiramandi released recently, which highlighted the contribution of courtesans in the freedom struggle. But another huge contribution to society that they've had is with music, and the relevance of Thumri and everything today is, big thanks to them. And I know that with your band Sakhi, you also highlight this in your concerts. So for our audience, can you please shed more light on this?
Yeah, first of all, they're called courtesans and not artists, is my first problem. But yeah, I think the context somehow became more important than the art. And I also think, without sounding too strong a feminist, but I also think that could only happen because they were females. It couldn't have been done with the male counterparts who were artists, who were still considered artists, and who are still called artists in the same time. So I don't know what made it possible and okay for the society to call the male counterparts artists and the female counterparts courtesans and not artists. So that is where my thought process, my direction of thinking guided me always. That the same songs, the same thumris, the same ghazals, when I'm sitting and singing on stage, people come, and for years they've been coming and saying that, we see Ma Saraswati when you sing this in you, and which is an amazing blessing. But my question at the same time is, why didn't we see Ma Saraswati in them? Why did we see a courtesan in them, and with so many taboos? And that actually, that's where I started reading about them. That's where I started my research about them. That's where I started visiting Lucknow and Banaras and trying to find the families and find out girls who are good singers, who have good voices, and whose grandparents, like grandmother, was a singer then, but she has a stitching shop. She sings well, but when I asked her, why don't you sing, she's like, I'll do anything but not sing. Never I'll sing. So singing is like a bad word for a gifted singer in a country where being a singer is a huge thing. And this is legacy. We were talking about legacy. This is family legacy that they want to hide because it is not seen with the kind of respect that it deserved. This is family legacy that we are talking about. This is family legacy that gave me my first platform, my first stage, my first center stage, my first spotlight. And it's the same legacy that has taken away everything from them. And they stand where they stand as a family, never want to do music. So these things, they hit very, very, very hard in the core of who you are. And I think as a girl, it hits you more personally Because then I started looking around and I didn't see many other contemporary female singers even in my field in today's time. I find myself very lonely professionally where I stand. Musicians that perform before me and after me in a vocal music festival, mostly they are male. And but why? But if you go to a music school, you will see the ratio of boys and girls learning vocal music. It's always more girls. But when it comes to people you go buy a ticket and go to listen to, the majority is male. What is happening to those very gifted, beautiful, talented voices who were trained? बीच में क्या हो गया? कहाँ खो गए? Why is it beautiful that you come home and you have a daughter who sings, and suddenly when that daughter wants to travel and go to a different city and perform, you suddenly start asking, who are you traveling with? When are you coming back to the hotel? What about your safety? Who are you talking to? Who's coming to, meet you? Why are these things becoming? The same parents are not happy and proud about the daughter traveling and going somewhere and doing a concert.
Yeah.
So it's not that age. It's in the minds and it's still there. So, you go and bring a girl to your household as your daughter-in-law who also sings very well. But when that daughter-in-law wants to buy a ticket, go to a different city, pack a suitcase, you're not okay. Why don't you teach five kids and bring them home and teach music? That's okay. वहाँ तक ठीक है. बच्चे को सिखाओ वहाँ पे ठीक है. लेकिन तुम बाहर जाओ perform करो ठीक नहीं. So these limitations are not artistic limitations. These limitations are societal. These limitations are in how we see it. These names have been given by us. They didn't call themselves courtesans. In their hearts, they believed they were artists. But हमने देखा है उनको कि बहुत पैराफंडली देखा है. वो गाना क्या गा रहे वो नहीं देखा, कहाँ बैठ के गा रहे वो देखा. और ये नहीं देखा कि उनको कोई दूसरा जगह दिया ही नहीं बैठने के लिए. उनको आप मंच दे देते, वो वहीं बैठ के गाते. उनको आप राजा का दरबार दे देते जो तानसेन को मिला, वहीं पे बैठ के गाते.
So beautiful.
So, if you read research papers, books, you'll know that Banaras mein there was a time when All India Radio abandoned all female musicians because they have disrespectful backgrounds. So they were not allowed to sing in radios. So radios would never play any female voices because सबके disrespectful backgrounds है. And they had to उनको अपने इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स हारमोनियम सारंगी तानपुरा गंगा जी में बहा दिया उन्होंने. And they left the city. I've traveled hours to go to a place to meet a few musicians of their times and had iftari with them and met them. They first thought I'm a journalist, I'm coming from somewhere, I'll take pictures. You know what people do. We ended up sitting and singing together. So I've seen that part of their life. I've seen the human beings. I've seen the passionate singers. And I see me in them. I see the same enthusiasm for a song that we want to sing. But then we always sing those thumris. We always sing those compositions to make our concerts beautiful. But what about acknowledging them? What about acknowledging the legacy that we were talking about? This is also a legacy that I carry, not only of my fathers, not only of Patiala Gharana. The legacy of these female musicians, the life that they've lived, the pains, and the only expression, they only cried out in their songs. Because the society never allowed them to cry out loud. So only loud expression, only the expression that could reach the other heart was their song. So they sang. And as a girl, I stand here and I look back and see how they have paved this way for me to sit on stage, upright and, creating a statement for myself with respect, dignity, singing their songs. And conveniently, we can forget them. Conveniently, we can take the song out and never mention them. So from there came the need for me to talk about them.
No, this is absolutely amazing, and thank you for being the voice for people that others don't take up for. And
Isn't that better than singing for Bollywood?
100%. No, in a way, I understand that where you are professionally is a lonely space, but I, as a student of music, I'm really grateful that at least you're there.
No,
So,
it's a
that's such
space
a.
of it's a lonely space in a way, but it's also a space of solitude, which I think is a very profound place to be. So I just hope and pray every day that I do it right, and I serve the purpose with all my honesty, sincerity, and commitment and truth.
From the outside, we see you as such an accomplished artist, such a brilliant singer, such a brilliant human being, if I may say so. What drives you every day now at this stage in your life to wake up and get going?
First is this, that I'm a work in progress. And I truly believe in that on every level of my existence. I'm totally a work in progress. And I believe in myself. It took me, I think I should mention this, Karan, because it took me years to feel it, and then again years to say it, that I know I can. I have the confidence. For the longest time, when you're under the shadow of a magnanimous presence, which is my father in my case, first of all, you're invisible. You are insignificant. That's where I started from. So it took me years to have that confidence कि हाँ मेरे से हो सकता है, मैं करूँ तो हो सकता है. So I think because it came late, it's still very fresh. कि हाँ मेरे से हो सकता है, तो और भी करना ज़रूरी है, कि भरोसा है कि करूँ तो होगा. So then I should do more. And now where I stand musically, doing more doesn't mean hitting the fourth octave and singing a tan faster. Now it means going inside more deeper and to find the more layers of the why I do music. And that is where all these things are coming out. That is why the Remembering Divas. This is why the ways that I'm trying to explore to find me in different ways and see how else music is there in me. So I think that exploration is a very self-exploration process. It's very intimate, it's very internal, but it's very enriching because it's knowing the life you are, and it's beautiful and it's never ending. So that's one solid, inspiration every morning that I feel. And secondly, I think I'm a very, I might not come across as a very uh, doting kind of a soft, melting heart kind of a mother, but I think in every situation, in every day, in every choice that I make in life, I always ask myself, what would Rishit's mother do? So I think that Rishit's mother would want to be remembered as someone who constantly worked on herself, tried to become a better human being, tried to value lives around her, tried to understand her in respect to everything else that is there in the cosmos, appreciate and be grateful to the gift of life and music that she was given, and then everything else to reflect in her music. So that's also another very internal, very personal process. But thankfully, everything leads to music and more music. So these are my personal purposes and directions that every day inspires me to work on myself. So I look forward to every single day. I look forward to every such opportunity where I'm faced with challenge and I have to learn something to be able to see the other side of that challenge and walk that path. And I think that the fact that I started off by saying that me and Rishit, we are co-travelers, and I think that he sees me scared, he sees me not sure, he sees me confident, he sees me when I'm not sure still trying to be confident. I think more than if ever he wants to be a performer, singer, that legacy, I think more than that, this is going to be my legacy that I would want him to remember. That you're not how you're seen. Sometimes you've seen me totally not in the space, very unwell, something in a very different mind space, but I have a concert, something that I have to prepare for. So he has seen me scared, he has seen me unsure and not confident and uncertain, but still kind of trying my best to be as true to the process as I can, because I understand the purpose, I understand the responsibility. So I think I think this is who I am, and this is who I want to be more and more going forward.
I really have to say this from the bottom of my heart that your work, the way you're conducting your life, is truly a benchmark for my generation. And thank you so much for this enlightening conversation. Thank you for sharing all your wisdom. I have learned so much. My audience, I'm sure, has learned so much. And all I can say is just thank you for it.
I just enjoyed myself really, really. I can say that there's been many, many conversations, interviews, different setups, different ways, but rarely I'm in a space where I'm being allowed to be so much myself and truly, truly share who I am. So thank you for giving me that space. Thank you for bringing this conversation to a space where I really enjoyed talking to you.
It was my honor. Thank you so much. To our audience, thank you so much for watching this episode. I really hope that you found it insightful. If you did, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up, share this with your friends and family, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, and I'll see you very soon. Lots of love. Bye.